Welcome everyone. The question of the day is, what is better for muscle growth, compound or isolation movements? Well, I think the first thing we need to do is define what's a compound movement versus an isolation movement. Well, a compound means that you're working more than one muscle at a time, or you're working at more than one joint at a time, right? That's very important to understand. So, for example, if I were to try and isolate my biceps, and I did a single arm preacher curl, I'm basically working at the elbow joint, right? If I were to do close grip pull-ups, right, now I'm working at the shoulder joint and I'm working at the biceps or the elbow joint, so I'm working the biceps at the same time as the lats, at the same time as the posterior deltoids. So there's several muscles involved and I'm working at multiple joints, right? Another example is if I was doing leg extensions, I'm working at the knee joint and I'm isolating the quads. If I'm doing squats, I'm working at the knee, I'm working at the hip, and I'm working major muscle groups like the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, adductors. So many are stabilizer muscles. Okay? That's the difference between the two. Now, the first way that studies look at how beneficial these are is muscle activation itself. So for example, in our laboratory, we use what's called electromyography. We'll have sensors on the muscles and you'll see how much they're activated, right? Well, when you actually control for intensity, meaning that like if you can lift 100 pounds on dumbbell flies, or you can lift 200 pounds on dumbbell bench press, right? If you're lifting 80% of that, it would be 80 pounds for dumbbell flies and 160 pounds for the presses. So you're controlling for the intensity, 80%. When you do that, we see that muscle activation in the chest or other muscle groups is similar. So based on this, you might say, well, I'm just going to do isolation. Why do I need to do compound? Or if they're both the same, is there any benefits from one or the other? Okay. So let's look at the benefits first of compound movements, right? When you're doing compound movements, one, you are working more muscle groups at once. So I'm not just activating the chest, I'm activating the shoulders, right? I'm activating the triceps. And studies show that, that when you're doing that all at once, and you're working multiple muscle groups at once, you don't just activate the muscle, you create a large anabolic response. What do I mean? Well, it means that the body, the endocrine system, the system that creates hormones, reacts to larger amounts of muscle being activated than smaller amounts of muscle. So if I do bench press, I'll release more testosterone, more things like growth hormone, more anabolic hormones than if I were to just do dumbbell flies, right? If I do leg extensions, I might release almost no hormones at all, but if I did squats, I get a massive increase in testosterone. And studies show that the more well-trained you are, I know a lot of you guys are hardcore athletes, the more receptors you have in the muscle for testosterone, so the more important it might become. Okay, so that's one of the first things, a greater anabolic response. It's just overall, you're able to lift heavier weight. So that's another thing, is that heavier load might be important for increasing things like fast twitch muscle fibers. So that's the benefits of lifting compound. What are the negatives? It's going to be hard for me to squat heavy every single day, right? It's going to be hard to deadlift every single day. When I do a leg workout and it's based on squats and deadlifts and lunges, I'm so sore the next day I can't really move, right? So it might take 72 hours, 96 hours to actually recover from that. Also, studies show that when you do compound movements, your central nervous system gets super taxed, right? What's your central nervous system? It's your brain, it's your spinal cord. They're fatigued. So the next day after a leg workout that's based on compound movements, what happens? I feel tired. I feel worn out. Maybe I'm a little bit cranky. I'm tired. I'm short with others, right? If I do leg extensions and leg curls, it's not going to tax my central nervous system. I'm not going to be tired the next day. In fact, I could train again probably the next day, okay? So this is an advantage of isolation movements, is that they're not taxing to the central nervous system and you can perform them more frequently. Another benefit to isolation movements is you can also bring up weak body parts. So for example, if I'm doing a military press, yeah, I might target the front deltoids. Yeah, I might get some of the side deltoids. Yeah, I might get maybe a little bit of the rear deltoids, but not much. Well, eventually I might have high overpowered front delts and weak side delts, and maybe not a lot of rear deltoid development. So that means that now I can isolate out as a bodybuilder, because I'm more advanced now, side lateral raises, machine lateral raises. I can create a better mind-muscle connection with that body part, right? So again, I can bring up weak body parts. So again, number one is I can train more frequently. I might be able to do isolation movements every single day, compound on a given body part, maybe 2 times a week. And secondly, you can bring up weak body parts. So I say that's the thing. So what's the key point here is that we need variety in our exercise, and we need frequency. So when you're doing a heavy day, maybe it's focused purely on compound movements. When you're doing more of a high volume day, you can't do super high volume with only compound movements. You can add in a bunch of isolation as well. And if you want to have a day where you're just increasing frequency of stimulation on the muscle, but still allow the central nervous system to recover, maybe have an entire isolation day for that. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.